And welcome to Banfield, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber in for Ashleigh tonight. Here's a question for you. If a cruise ship guest is served 33 drinks and goes on a violent rampage, whose fault is it? His or the crew's? If that same guest dies while the crew is trying to subdue him, whose fault is it then? That is the basis of a brand new lawsuit that could have a huge effect on every cruise vacation that any of us take from now on. We're going to get into that in a minute. Also tonight, have you heard about this story? This is a disturbing one. There are shocking new details in the murder of a pregnant woman out in Michigan. We're talking about 22-year-old Rebecca Park. She was stabbed to death. Her baby was cut out of her body. This was all last month. Her baby still hasn't been found. And now we are getting our first look at probable cause affidavits, where the murder suspects, we're talking about Rebecca's own birth mother and stepfather, they are telling police their versions of what happened. And guess what? Maybe not a shocker here. Their stories don't match up. There's a lot of finger-pointing going on. Also, coming up, the still AWOL suspect in the horrible death of a teenage girl in Los Angeles, the singer known simply as David, allegedly knew that police found dismembered human remains in his car a few weeks ago, but just kept on performing. Nobody in his management called police. That's a new allegation. Why not, you might be asking? Well, apparently the guy running David's tour company has an answer. He had to give it under oath. Those details are coming up. And by the way, where is David? Does anybody know? We have a lot of unanswered questions with that. Going back to this first story. So the fiancé of a Royal Caribbean Cruise Line passenger who died after a drunken rampage almost a year ago says it was the ship's crew that is to blame for his death, and the company needs to pay. A brand new lawsuit claims that Michael Virgil had barely set foot on the Navigator of the Seas when he was steered into a bar and served at least 33 alcoholic drinks. Let me say that again. 33 drinks, at least. Now, Virgil and fiancée Connie Aguilar, they were sailing to Mexico from LA with their 7-year-old son. And according to the lawsuit, they were told to wait in the bar while housekeeping finished cleaning their cabin. And the suit says the child got antsy, so he and his mom, they went off to explore the ship, see how the cabin's doing. But by the time Michael left, the suit says he didn't know up from down, that he immediately got lost because he was so intoxicated. And then he got agitated, that he became unruly, and Virgil reportedly attacked two crew members, and apparently video shows him trying to kick down a door where one crew member was hiding. And then things got even worse. The suit claims that security officers tackled Virgil, pinned him to the floor, used their full weight to hold him down, and allegedly they also hit him with pepper spray multiple times and injected him with haloperidol. This is a very powerful sedative. Now, the LA medical examiner ruled Virgil's death a homicide, which just means it was caused by someone else. The specific causes were asphyxia, so Virgil's airway was cut off, obesity, an enlarged heart, and too much alcohol. The family calls the ship's actions reprehensible and negligent, that they are to blame. Royal Caribbean says that it's saddened by the passing of one of its guests, that they have cooperated with the investigation, but they're not releasing more of a statement because there's active litigation. So I want to talk about this. Is there a case? I'm joined right now by attorney Richard Schoenstein. Rich, so good to see you. Thanks for taking the time. Is there a case here? Because someone might say, wait a second, he voluntarily, right, had 33 drinks. He bought this package where it was seemingly an unlimited amount of drinks he could have. Isn't it his responsibility or no?
Well, Jesse, to figure out if there's a case here, I have to work backwards. The key to this case, as far as I can tell, is cause of death. You just put up a graphic indicating the different factors that went into his death, some of which could have occurred on the ship. There you see it again, and some of which already existed, like obesity and an enlarged heart. These other things, was it asphyxia or was it too much alcohol? What exactly caused his death?
Could it be both?
And then,
if it's both, isn't it all the ship or not? Because the asphyxia was allegedly caused by the people tackling him, and the too much alcohol was, you should have known better. You keep giving this guy drinks?
Yeah, well, I have a little bit of difficulty believing the 33 drink allegation. 33 drinks, really? The guy sat down in a bar on a cruise ship and had 33 drinks? I would want to know more. What kind of drinks were these? Were these real drinks or are these cruise ship Mai Tais that don't have very much alcohol. I need a little more facts on the 33 drinks because I have a difficult time believing that anybody can sit down and just down 33 drinks in a row and that anybody serving someone would let them do that.
Well, how do they prove that? Are there records to establish that? Would it be surveillance footage? Would they be interviewing the bartenders? And if there were different bartenders, I mean, would one know what the other one served him? Or if it's the same person there, that person might be in hot water, or the same people there.
Yeah, there's potential liability. I mean, people have tried to sue bars before, just bars, forget about cruise ships for a minute, but bars and restaurants for over-serving people. It's difficult to pin liability on somebody serving alcohol because they don't necessarily know how much the person has consumed, how much they can tolerate, and what kind of condition they're in, and because they're there voluntarily to consume alcohol. So that's a very difficult claim to bring.
Don't they have a responsibility if they're seeing he's getting, let's say, arguably agitated and more uncontrolled, and they would say, wait a minute, we have an obligation, we're serving these drinks, we have a duty to stop, we have a duty to say no more. Isn't that a responsibility, a legal responsibility?
I think it would be, but did this person start acting like this when he was still at the bar? Or did he get up, start going to look for his girlfriend and child, and then start kicking doors down, right? How was he acting while he was drinking? And I think looking at surveillance video is a very good idea. I would be surprised if you don't have it on the ship, right? So we can see exactly how much he had and how he acted as he was doing it.
So they're alleging that once he left and became allegedly disruptive and violent, they're alleging that security tackled him, pinned him, and compressed him until he stopped moving. If you're having that coupled with the medical examiner saying this was a homicide, he was killed, the question then becomes, what were the specific actions that crossed the line into, let's say, negligence? What was it that they did that was excessive?
That's exactly right. And if he is out of control, forget about how he got that way for a minute. But if he is out of control, don't the security officers have a duty to other passengers to subdue him and protect the other people on the ship from him? To some extent, they have to get him under control. And the claim is that they over-subdued him. They did too much pressure. And I guess a claim that they gave him drugs or pepper sprayed him.
Yeah.
That might have gone over the line, too.
Yeah, we're talking about pepper spray, haloperidol, that they were all used in one incident. Now, it can't be simple to just say, hey, we'll call police, we'll call medical professionals. If you're on a ship, it's limited and the assistance you could get. But I guess the question becomes, what should they have done in that situation to contain him that wouldn't have allegedly killed him or contributed to this? And that becomes a question. I mean, that combination from the medical examiner, it seems to suggest, is what led to his death.
Right. And expert testimony will be the key to this case. Expert testimony as to the cause of death and expert testimony about security. What is the appropriate response for a ship security officer to somebody acting like this? Was it improper to apply narcotics or to apply pepper spray? Should they have used less force? That's going to be the subject of expert testimony about what is reasonable under the circumstances as they unfolded.
And that's what's interesting, because if you have video of Michael allegedly kicking at a door, attacking crew members, this could be tough to say that what they did was excessive. But then you go back to the medical examiner ruling this a homicide. If that comes into evidence, is that the end of the case? Can they say, medical examiner said that he was killed, of course they're responsible, or no?
I don't know that it ends the case. I mean, medical examiner says it was a homicide, but by whom, right? Who is the medical examiner saying was responsible? It could be collateral estoppel against the ship, I suppose, if it deemed their officers killed him. I don't know exactly what the medical examiner said about it.
Now, the lawsuit says that Royal Caribbean, they failed to train, they failed to supervise their security team. Is that going to be tough to prove?
Yeah, I mean, it may or may not be tough to prove. They're going to get discovery on those issues if the case goes forward. They're going to find out exactly what kind of training the security officers at issue got, if any, or how good it was or how bad it was. And that evidence could lead in a lot of different directions. Maybe it will show that they got plenty of training. Maybe it will show that they didn't get very much training. It depends where the evidence takes you in a case like this.
What are we talking about in terms of damages? I looked it up, and I think they're suing under something called Death on the High Seas Act, which gives you a cause of action, right? You can damages, but I think they're limited to the pain and the suffering that Virgil would have suffered, which you tell me, what could that amount to?
Well, I don't know. So first of all, I've never litigated on the high seas, so I don't know that particular law. I also don't know, right? Every passenger who gets on a cruise ship signs all kinds of terms and conditions that limit the claims they can have against the ship. I don't know how that's going to impact this. Now, if there was gross misconduct, gross negligence, or intentional misconduct, then a waiver probably wouldn't cover that, but I'm sure the ship is going to argue that there is some kind of waiver. But the answer to your question is if they overserved him, tackled him, gave him drugs, sprayed him with pepper spray, restrained him, and asphyxiated him, the potential damages are millions and millions of dollars.
And this raises a larger question, other than the heartbreak that this family suffers, right? I mean, if you think about what they had to go through, because it's being reported they had to stay on the ship, that his body was in the cooler before it was actually docked. I mean, it's just hard to imagine that. And if you talk about pain and suffering, they might be able to articulate that very well on the stand. Big picture, if a jury finds Royal Caribbean liable, this goes to trial, they find him liable, what is the precedent that this could set for passenger safety, industry-wide? Are there going to be no more unlimited drinks packages, which maybe is not a bad thing?
I don't think so, because I don't think the liability here is just about the alcohol, right? There's the alcohol, and then he goes kind of nuts, and then they try to subdue him, and it seems to be the subduing him that leads to his death, and I think that's where most of the liability is going to be. Bars have been sued for ages for overserving people. There are open bars in all kinds of contexts, cruise ships, weddings, right? All kinds of places have open bars. They're not suddenly going to have a finding in one case that puts an end to the open bar. I don't see that happening. It may make, it may lead the cruise ships to kind of think this through a little bit more, but I don't think it's going to be a complete change of procedure.
So if I'm understanding Rich Schoenstein correctly, these are allegations. This is one narrative. Let's see what the other narrative is. Let's see what the facts might be from both sides, and then we can figure out what's going on. By the way, if this goes to trial and maybe is not dismissed or settled, I think it's just a heartbreaking situation, but an interesting legal case, and we'll keep a careful eye on it. Richard Schoenstein, good to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
You got it. All right. I mentioned this before, got to talk about it before we move on. Quick update on Celeste, Rivas, Hernandez, and David. Now, David, of course, spelled with the number 4, being the up-and-coming music star whose alleged underage girlfriend, Celeste Rivas Hernandez, even though that hasn't been confirmed totally by authorities, she was found dead in his Tesla back in September. Now, we've reported that an investigative grand jury is hearing testimony. TMZ says the panel heard yesterday from the head of David's touring company. And according to TMZ, the witness was overheard telling his own lawyer afterward in the hallway that the prosecutor who questioned him really pressed him, quote, on why I didn't call police. Now, he says that he reportedly responded, quote, I feel I didn't have the responsibility to do that and just wanted to continue with the tour. In fact, the tour, if we're assuming it's David's tour, was scrapped a couple of weeks after Celeste's body was found. And though TMZ reports David is now officially a suspect in the teen's death and concealment, maybe both, no one yet has been arrested or charged in connection with what happened to her. Up next, murder in small-town Michigan. Rebecca Park died an unspeakable death, as did her unborn baby, apparently. And now the people who should be mourning both of them are blaming one another for killing them. Eye-popping details from just-released court documents. We're going to talk about that on the other side of this break. Stay with us. If you followed our reporting on the absolutely horrific killing of a young pregnant woman in Michigan, Rebecca Park, you're really not going to be shocked to learn what the victim's loved ones told police about who did what and why. If this case is new to you, just know that Park was 22 years old and 38 weeks long when she disappeared on November 3rd. She was found November 25th in a national forest, stabbed to death, and her baby cut out of her body. Prosecutors say the baby's dead, but we still don't know where it is. Rebecca's birth mother and stepfather, we're talking about Courtney and Bradley Bartholomew, are each charged with first-degree murder among many other charges. They're each being held without bail. We're talking about the family here being responsible or allegedly responsible. And now we have the probable cause affidavits that are supporting their arrest. And surprise, each is pointing the finger at one another. Police say Courtney told them that Bradley confessed to killing Rebecca the day after her mutilated body was found. Allegedly, Courtney said Bradley claimed to have slit Rebecca's throat. And when she asked what happened to the baby, he said he put it in a cooler and then a trash bag and then threw it in the trash. But then Bradley spoke to police and allegedly said Courtney stabbed Rebecca, ripped out the baby, and threw it away in a cooler. He said Courtney had Rebecca lie down in the woods while she was still alive and cut the baby out of her, supposedly because she wanted it for herself, which obviously raises the question of why she didn't keep it unless it didn't survive. But the only murder charge that was filed so far is for Rebecca's murder, not the infant's. And if that is not enough to make your head spin about all of this, because it's so hard to understand what's happening, there is another affidavit we need to talk about. This one for Rebecca's sister, Kimberly Park, again, all in the family. She has been charged with lying to police and obstruction, and now we know why. 3 days before Rebecca was found, Kimberly allegedly told police that Courtney and Brad killed her, both of them. She said they hit Rebecca so hard on the head that she had a seizure and died, so they had her carted away. 3 days later, Kimberly had a different story. She told police that her dead sister's fiancé, a guy named Richard Fowler, confessed that he killed Rebecca. Fowler's facing charges now too, but on drugs, not murder. Now, I want you to get this. Before he was engaged to Rebecca, Fowler dated Kimberly, her sister, as well as Courtney, her birth mom. I want you to process all that for a second. Now, Courtney was out of the picture for most of Rebecca's life. The two had just reconnected a few years back. And as for Kimberly, the same day that she accused Courtney and Bradley, she also spoke on a podcast that is hosted by a friend of ours. It's called Steph's Case Files. And Steph is Stephanie Pratt. And here's a bit of what Kimberly told her on November 22nd.
Courtney told me if I say absolutely anything, me and my daughter are both going down for it. She said it to my face. She said it the day after my sister disappeared when I came out there.
It's hard to make sense of any of this, but I want to bring on Stephanie Pratt right now. Joins me now live. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully you can sort this out. I want to start with Courtney and Bradley playing the blame game. The police, telling police the other killed Rebecca, threw away her baby. Can you tell us more about what you know about their statements to police?
Yes, they seem to be playing, just as you said, the blame game. When they questioned Courtney Bartholomew, she stated Brad was the one who hid in the truck, and she was then to get Rebecca to get in the truck. They got in the truck. Courtney says they're just riding along, and then he just starts taking out the knife. And according to her, he was stabbing her 4 to 5 times in both the chest and the back. But then when they brought Brad in, he switched it on Courtney and said she was the one that was swinging the knife as he was stopping the truck to get out of the truck because the knife was still swinging and he didn't know what was going on. So each of them blame each other. But really what police have to do is overlap their stories to figure out what is correct. They both were there. They both were involved. They both handled some sort of weapon. And I think that's going to be the underlying case.
That's a really good point, because right now they believe that they are responsible, not Richard Fowler, for the death. And this idea, I'm still confused, this idea that Courtney lured her out, well, stabbed her, made her lie down, took the baby out. I guess because I'm trying to understand what the motive would have been for that, whether it was to get the baby or there was tension. I don't really quite understand. And then why would Bradley want to kill Rebecca? What would be the motives here for both of them to do this?
Well, we know by Bradley's own testimony that him and Rebecca did not get along, so that would be one motive for him. But in speaking and interviewing Courtney Bartholomew myself, she told me directly that she had plans to move to Texas. And I said, why Texas? That's so far away. She said, well, Brad went there for work one time. He liked it. I like it. We want to move there. We want to have a baby together. My son wants to have a sibling. In fact, in the affidavit, you'll note that she talked about a NICU baby that was hers, that was born early to a friend, stating that the baby was having trouble breathing. So when you put all of this together, I believe the motive was to have a baby that she had already named and had stated in the affidavit that she was mad at Rebecca for killing.
And I just want to circle back on this idea of if this is all true and Rebecca Park endured all this, stabbed and had the baby ripped out of her and died, that is just unimaginable. It is unimaginable. And you think about this unborn baby, because the affidavits get into that too, right? What happened to this unborn baby who still hasn't been found? What do the affidavits reveal that we didn't know before?
So Courtney, one thing that Courtney and Brad both have in common is they say that the baby is inside a blue cooler that was placed inside a trash bag. Now, who placed the baby in the cooler? Courtney says Brad, Brad says Courtney. Then in the trash bag, and then the baby was taken to a dumpster down the road at a house just north of them. And so I'm hoping that authorities are going to try to trace that to a landfill where the baby might be. Who put the baby in the cooler? That's a good question. They both say each other. And the most shocking part of this is Courtney took that baby home, even though the baby had already passed away, and took it to her bedroom and tried CPR for an additional 15 minutes before they decided to discard of the baby boy.
Oh my gosh. And I'll say, look, recovering the baby is not only important from a human point of view and an emotional point of view and a justice point of view, but from a forensic point of view, can obviously say a lot. Real quick, Rebecca's sister, Kimberly, telling police that, okay, it was Courtney and Bradley were the killers, then saying it was Richard Fowler who confessed to the murder. What did Kim tell you directly about that with Richard?
Well, we know by the affidavit that Kim started telling this story before Rebecca's body was found, trying to paint this narrative and timeline for police, going in there on November the 5th and telling police that Rich was after Rebecca, that Rebecca was trying to get away from him and that he was angry and that he could have been the one to do it. Now, what we also see in the affidavit is Kim was approached with the fact that cadaver dogs hid in her bedroom. She explained that away to authorities as the fact that her and Rich are having an affair and that there was bodily fluids inside the bedroom, and that's what the dogs hid on. So now we have an affair between Kimberly Park and Rich, who is engaged to Kimberly's sister, Rebecca, who used to date their mom, Courtney.
Oh my gosh. It's hard to make sense of that. I mean, my gosh, the different people that are involved in all this, the connections, the allegations, trying to make sense of it, very, very tough. Stephanie Pratt, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you, and thank you for having that conversation with Kimberly. It definitely says a lot. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, straight ahead. A Florida teen sneaks off to meet up with her crush and allegedly walks into a trap. Tonight, 2 other teens stand accused of shooting Danica Troy and trying to burn her remains. Teens. The sheriff who caught them is going to join me live. That's next. First love usually gives way to first heartbreak. Sucks, we've all been there, but we've all gotten over it. Now, I wish I could say the same for Danica Troy. Danica was 14, attending a special needs school in Florida, when, according to her mom, she fell hard for a 16-year-old classmate. Now, I'm not going to tell you the name. I can't report it for reasons that are soon going to become clear, because a week ago yesterday, Danica wasn't in her bed and her mom reported her missing. She assumed the girl had slipped out to meet her crush, but she didn't know and she was worried. The next day, at around 11 a.m., a person walking through the woods near Danica's home found a body, and it was badly burned. It was Danica. Police swooped in. They promptly found shell casings and enough other clues to lead them straight to two suspects: the 16-year-old crush and another boy who's 14, 16 and 14. Police say the crush stole his mother or legal guardian's handgun. Both boys lured Danica into the woods for the sole purpose of killing her. And here's Santa Rosa County Sheriff Bob Johnson with more. Take a look.
And here's where it even gets worse. It's bad enough you kill a 14-year-old, you're 14, you're 16, shoot her multiple times, then they set her on fire. And we're going to be hopefully working with the state attorney's office to get these individuals charged as adults. You do an adult crime, you need to do adult time.
Sheriff Bob Johnson joins me now live. Thank you so much for coming on, and great work on this. You said in your press conference that you want the teens tried as adults. Is that likely, and what are the next steps?
Well, I hope so. And the next step is for the state attorney's office to send this to a grand jury. And once they come back with their findings, and hopefully they will be charged as adults, both of them.
I mean, it's a heinous crime. There's no other way to say it. It's a heinous series of allegations that these two, 16 and 14, unbelievable, these ages. Now, Danica's mom has said publicly that Danica was in love with the 16-year-old. Are there any other details that you learned of that relationship? Were they dating? What do we know about that?
Well, I don't know about the dating part, but we do know that she had a crush on the 16-year-old boy. And we believe that's why she went out into the woods with him. She had no idea she was going to be murdered, obviously, and bad enough to be shot, but then set on fire. That's an adult crime right there, and it's just so sickening.
And detectives, correct me if I'm wrong, initially believed that this alleged murder stemmed from some sort of social media dispute, that the boys claimed Danica had blocked the 14-year-old, called the 16-year-old a worthless gangbanger. But you say the motive, right, doesn't add up with the facts you've learned in this case.
No, it doesn't. I mean, to me, it doesn't. I mean, if you call somebody a name in 8th grade or whatever, I mean, how many of name-calling fights end up with somebody being shot and burned to death? I mean, it just doesn't add up to me. There was something else going on, and we don't know what that is. My detectives interviewed them both, and they stuck with the story of, yeah, they got called a name, so that's why they killed her.
And they're saying the same story, both of them.
Yeah, with minor differences, but when you're confronted with the police and you know that you committed a murder, we usually don't get 100% of the truth from anybody.
Right, right. This arrest report says that the 14-year-old apparently told investigators that the murder was planned. The plan was to shoot Danica once, but the 16-year-old allegedly kept firing. Can you tell us about that statement? Does it match forensics? Do we know more about how she died?
Well, we know there were multiple shots. We think by both individuals. We think the gun was handed off possibly to the 14-year-old who also shot as well. But I think multiple gunshots, and then afterwards, that's when they doused her with gasoline and set her on fire.
Where'd they get the gasoline? Do you know?
No, I don't recall where they got it from. I know the gun was retrieved from the 16-year-old's parent. So,
and this area, we're showing pictures of it here, the area where they allegedly chose to kill Danica, apparently they lured her there, right? That's the allegation. Why that area? What should we know about it?
Well, it's just off the beaten path. There's not a lot of houses there, so the fire wasn't really noticed. And that's the reason they took her out there. They could have killed her in the backyard somewhere, but you set a fire and the fire department's coming. So they lured her out into a secluded area, and that's where they did it at.
These suspects are incredibly young. It's hard to imagine that they did this, how unusually organized and brutal it was. Are you looking into whether or not they had any help, whether or not they were encouraged in any way?
Yeah, we don't have any evidence to support that. And when you talk about what they did, it's just pure evil. And, you know, you see evil. I'm in year 44 as a cop, and I've seen a lot of evil. But 14 and 16-year-olds to come up with this plan and to execute a young girl like this, yeah, there's no other reason I can think of other than just pure evil.
Now, I will say there was another arrest here. So apparently the man who initially found Danica's body has been arrested. This guy, Mitchell Edens, saw her. Saw her, allegedly stole her scooter, didn't report it, went home. What do we know about this?
Yeah, the guy, we arrested him. And for somebody to come across a dead body like this, and all you see the dead body and you see the scooter, and you don't call law enforcement, don't report it. I mean, just take the scooter. Who thinks of that? I mean, who comes up with a plan like that? So, yeah, this guy's in jail where he needs to be. He obviously is not going to be a contestant on Jeopardy anytime soon. And, yeah, he just took the scooter and left the scene.
Real quick, did he explain why?
No, well, he didn't explain why he didn't call us. He wanted the scooter, so he took it.
Okay, I don't even know what to say about that one. Listen, Sheriff Bob Johnson, thank you again for coming on. Thank you for the work that you and your team are doing. This is a really, really tough case, chilling to say the least. We'll keep a very careful eye on this one as well and see how it progresses. But thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yes, sir. Take care.
All right, still ahead. It's not a crime to buy a hacksaw or a hammer or cleaning supplies, and it's not a crime to smile when you do it. But if you need that stuff to get rid of your dead wife's body and you're claiming she died of natural causes, it might help your case to look maybe just a little freaked out. I'm talking to you about Brian Walshe. After the break, I'm going to talk with our body language expert about what exactly Walshe is saying on surveillance video the very day that Anna Walshe was killed. Don't go anywhere. If Anna Walshe died the way that Brian Walshe, her husband, now says, suddenly, naturally, of unexplained causes, and if Brian had simply called 911 at that time, we wouldn't be talking about either of them 3 years later. But Brian Walshe didn't call 911. By his own admission, he cut up Anna's body and disposed of the pieces in dumpsters all over eastern Massachusetts. He's standing trial now for Anna Walshe's presumed murder. And since prosecutors don't have a body, or body parts, they're leaning on what they do have. A hacksaw, a knife, a hammer, all tested positive for blood. Blood stains in the couple's basement, high-res, full-color video of Brian Walshe buying dismemberment tools and cleaning supplies. And here's the real part, looking less than broken up when he does it. See, that is important. That's my take. I want to get an expert opinion on the accused killer's vibe and possible tells as best as we can. Because again, if he did this, right, he finds his wife's body, all of a sudden, shouldn't he be a little bit more broken up as he's buying these supplies? I want to bring on Scott Rouse. He's a behavior and body language expert, friend of the show. Thank you so much for coming back. Okay, so I want to show you this video. Okay, let's play it. We're going to start out with the video of Walshe at Lowe's. So he's buying the hacksaw. This is from January 1st, so the day that he allegedly killed her. Hacksaw, hammer, the cleaning supplies. By the way, a forensic scientist said that the DNA is consistent with Anna Walshe. I want you to see what he's doing there. Okay, he's checking himself out in the camera. Look, oh, wait, got to fix the hair there. It's a little smile. What do we make of that?
There's a lot going on there. This guy, if someone had died in your family within the last 3 days, this would not be the way your body language would perform for you. It's not what it would be showing. We don't see anything that shows any concern. We don't see any him being apprehensive. He's relaxed. He's almost got a pleasant expression on his face. He's not threat checking. He's not looking around to see if somebody's watching him. There's nothing. There's nothing happening here that tells you this guy has had a problem with stress or doing anything horrific or being a part of anything horrific or having someone in his family pass away. He's the antithesis of the person who is stressed. He's the complete opposite of that.
Yeah. By the way, he's walking around with a child, maybe presumably his son. We're not 100% sure. I'll get into an explanation of what could explain this, maybe, but I want to go to another video. So this is a video of him at Home Goods. We believe this is from January 2nd. Buys a candle, these very large rugs, bath towels. Again, if this was a case where he went to trial and had to be, and he was asking the jury, hey, did I dismember my wife's body? Did I dispose of it? I think he'd be found guilty in 10 seconds. I know this is a little bit of a further back video, but I'm sure you've seen it before. What can we tell about his state of mind from a video like this?
He looks like any other person that would be in there. He looks unconcerned about anything that's going on outside of that store or anything that's happened to him or anything he's done that's horrible up to that point. His head is back, his chin is forward, his chest is open, he's relaxed, his arms are just a little bit away from his sides. That lets us know he's confident. He feels good about what's going on. He has no problem with that. When as he's walking along, you can see that space between his walking there. Those are long. His feet are pointed outward. He's relaxed. He's leaned back. He's not worried about anything. Nothing is stressing this guy from a body language perspective.
Let me ask you this.
Clean.
Is it possible someone is in so much shock that they look normal? Their body might be acting one way, their face might be acting one way, but what's going on internally is panic and fear and shock and being scared?
You can have that, but it doesn't look like that. I know what you're talking about. I know what that looks like. I've seen it a lot in my business, and that's not what it looks like, not even a little bit. Because when someone's in shock and they forget, let's say, what happened, they've blocked it all out, then they'll have an almost blank expression on their face, not going from a pleasant facial expression to smiling at yourself in a camera because you see yourself on a screen there. That won't happen during that at all. This guy, he's looking around, taking his time. He's not in a hurry. See how far apart his arms are when he's coming in, or when he was in the first one there? That shows us he's got confidence. Here, he's just loose, looking around. And right here, where he's looking up and spots himself, he's not concerned with anything. We don't see any facial expressions that show he shows concern or worry or stress. There would be a little thing in the glabella just above the forehead called the grief muscle that would form if he was grieving over someone dying. If, in fact, someone in his family had died, he wouldn't see how loose his body language is and fluid it is. That's not what happens when you're stressed or when you're experiencing what you were just explaining. It doesn't look like that. You walk around kind of like a robot with a blank expression on your face because you're trying to forget what happened or your brain has blocked that out. But you don't walk around looking normal. That guy looks normal.
Wow. Normal.
Like.
Yeah, I mean, look, put it this way. I think this is what complicates the idea of him maybe taking the stand, and a jury has to assess this body language here. But if he takes the stand and acts in a completely different way and remorseful and sad, they might be like, this is not adding up with the guy that we're seeing this. And I'll tell you this much. Look, no body cases are notoriously more difficult to prove for prosecutors because you don't have the body to really explain what happened. But maybe they don't need a body if that's his actions. If they're saying, okay, jury, the defense expects you to believe that he found his wife dead, and instead of calling 911, you know, say if he really loved her, he would have tried to save her life in some way. This is what he does? Interesting. All right, Scott Rouse, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Interesting discussion.
Thank you very much.
All right, still ahead. The exact moment Luigi Mangione went from fugitive murder suspect to just murder suspect, we finally have the video of police in Altoona, Pennsylvania, making contact with a man who couldn't possibly be the most wanted suspect in the country, or so they thought, and then realizing he was. You are going to see it all right after this. We leave you tonight with a milestone in the timeline of accused CEO murderer Luigi Mangione. It was 1 year ago today that police in Altoona, Pennsylvania got a call from a local McDonald's saying a guy who resembled Luigi was there, sitting all by himself, eating hash browns. We all know what happened next, but we've never actually seen it until now. New York prosecutors just released the body cam footage of police going face to face for the first time with Luigi Mangione.
Yes, sir. There you go. Yeah, put your mask down real quick for me. Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. What's your name?
Mark.
What is it?
Mark.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Mark what?
Rosario.
Rosario? Someone called. They thought you were suspicious.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you have your ID on you?
Yes, sir.
Thanks. You probably should look like someone guilty to run.
It was that phony ID that got Luigi arrested, and soon those same police would find the evidence that gave rise to murder charges in both state and federal court. And as you know, Luigi's legal team is trying to get that evidence tossed on the grounds of a warrantless search, and a make-or-break hearing is now in its second week. And if that evidence gets tossed, that is a big blow to prosecutors. That does it for us tonight. I'm Jesse Weber. Thank you so much for joining us. Cuomo is up next. See you next time, everybody.